And we're live. Well, hello, everybody. Hello, 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 hello. We're live. We're live and it's Sunday. And we're going to be doing more ink stuff. Thanks to Sktchy for having me. Last week, we did some fun stuff. We will wait a few minutes for people to get back in here or get in here. But last week we did some weird stuff. Looks like this. I don't know if you remember this. It's a mess. But yeah, we did some stuff last week. So I'm thinking that we'll do some different stuff this week. But we'll probably start out with a warm-up because I'm not warmed up. Mahas, yeah, the stream just got going. Oh, special offer. Buy a class, get one 80% off with the discount code BOGO80. Yeah, if you don't know, I do have two other classes. My first one was drawing the human head, which is really a very fundamentals-driven kind of class. And I also have another class that is about a technique that I use called contour hatching. And we cover how to use it across multiple mediums. And so those are fun classes to do. Still thinking about which one I want to do next, but I'm starting to lean towards gouache a little bit. Just got to have work settle down before I can really start producing it. Yeah, so today we're going to be doing something with ink, but we're going to warm up first, and we're probably just going to use my sketchbook to warm up because I still have a few pages left to finish. And then we're going to get into a drawing using brush pen, using markers today. Markers are ink, right? And yeah, we're going to be doing today's prompt, which is Buddy, and I will be using the muse from today's Sktchy artist, which is a really, really beautiful photograph. And yeah, I might as well just like sort of cover off on some of these materials a little bit while we wait. Well, maybe we might just wait a little bit longer. But in case you don't know, one of my favorite pens in the world is this Pentel pocket brush pen. Can you see it? It's a very nondescript. It is fantastic. It's got a nice brushy brush at the end. So we will be playing with this a little bit like we did a couple streams ago. Yeah, so it's 9 o'clock my time. We've got about an hour. My plan is this. My plan is to warm up for about 5 to 10 minutes by using a Bic. We'll go right back to this view again by using just like a really simple ballpoint pen. I was in the grocery store and I'm like, oh, I don't have any Bic ballpoint pens, so I should just pick some up. And it got me really excited about the idea of just how simple it is to draw. That like you don't need much of anything. You just need something that can make a mark, and every single type of drawing implement has its own special qualities. And I haven't used a ballpoint pen in a long time. You can get some really, really beautiful, subtle effects, but it's still ink, so it's permanent. It's like a pencil that you can't erase. So we're going to be using this for our warm-up, and then we'll go into using a brush pen. We're going to be using some grayscale Prismacolor markers. We're going to go all the way up to 70%, take it down to 50%, take it down to 30%, take it down to 10%, I believe. Yeah. So we'll use this to kind of create our gradations and value. I really love using ink with markers. They're just, or like ink pens with markers. It's a really nice complement with one another. And then we'll be using it on, or we'll be using those on this marker paper. So it's a very, very thin paper, but it holds marker really, really well. just for getting clean, kind of even strokes. So I'm going to be using this. This is the brand, in case you want to know. But yeah, this basically prevents the marker from bleeding, which is the most important thing with marker. So if you're using like a thicker, like a moleskin sketchbook, for instance, if you use marker in there, like the marker itself, the ink inside of it would bleed out into the paper and you get kind of fuzzy edges. So we're not going to do that. We're going to use this marker paper so we get nice crisp edges. Where's my sketchbook? So, okay, let's stop this down a couple notches so that you can see. Yeah, so I figured we just take a page and we take our reference photo here. Can I tell you the name of the pens I'm using? Yeah, the pen that I will be, well, this is just a big pen, just a ballpoint pen. Biro is another, I think, brand in Europe, but they, just the cheapest ballpoint pen you could possibly find. It really doesn't matter. This is the Pentel Pocket Brush. This is the brush pen that I'll be using. And these are Prismacolor markers. I don't remember if they're called like art markers or what, but I think there's only one set of kind of markers that Prismacolor makes. These are quote unquote like professional markers. Like these are not inexpensive. So, but the quality is insanely good. So they're really, really fun to use. All right, so I was thinking that in order for this to actually be a warm-up, we should probably just not focus too much on precision and focus more on line. So I'm going to do a little bit of a gestural one-line-ish kind of drawing here, and I'm just going to let my hand kind of travel around the page, and I'm going to use more of my eye, like my hand-eye connection, to really dictate where I'm going with some of my lines rather than trying to measure and do things like that. So we'll just go ahead and start up in the head area. And again, one of the reasons why I really, really love ballpoint pens is because they can be so receptive to pressure. And so you can get really light lines if you want to, or you can get really dark lines. So again, I'm just kind of using my eyes to guide my pen in my hand. Really what I'm doing here is I'm trying to familiarize myself with the subject matter before we get into it so that I can start to observe the different lovely forms and things that are happening and what sorts of like forms I actually want to push on. I'll zoom in a little bit here. So I haven't been doing a whole lot of drawing lately, unfortunately, just because my real job, my job has been pretty intense. So unfortunately, it means when that happens, the energy levels, kind of dwindle quite a bit, and it becomes a lot harder to do the time because I also want to like make sure that I'm exercising and doing other things that are just generally healthy for me. So so I got to prioritize some stuff, but yeah, the days have been pretty long on my end. Hopefully once the sort of holidays here in the States start to roll around, things will lighten up or feel like they lighten up a little bit. So right now I'm kind of looking and inventing some lines to kind of indicate folds. I like drawing like this because it prevents you from being too precious. It's just a lot more about just feel Anyway, so yeah, just trying to keep my energy levels up as best I can over these next couple of months. Not burn myself out. Which also means eating healthier as well. These interlocked hands are going to be a super pain in the butt when we get to them in the real drawing. So yeah, I'm trying to get into doing, how many fingers do you have? 1, 2, here comes the third finger. Forgot how many fingers people have. Yeah, eating healthy. So I'm gonna start doing some meal prep. I've got a Instant Pot pressure cooker and all kinds of fun stuff. So I'd like to start using it for myself to make some good meals. So I think I'm gonna make some beef stew later. Just found a good recipe. Has anybody actually been doing the fun Inktober stuff? I've been, like I said before, just not really able to make the time to do it, but I've been following along. I wish I had kind of, well, I wish that I wasn't terrified to go into a retail store, but I I really wish that I had picked up some like different kinds of colored inks, because I like, so I could, and some like appropriate paper to do ink washes and things like that, because it looks like a lot of fun to do that. I've just been seeing so much really cool stuff with people doing lots of interesting ink washes with color. I don't think I've ever used color with ink, to be totally honest with you. I think I've only done like India ink washes and things like that. Which are super fun. Not really suitable for like a live stream though. Takes a long time for that stuff to dry. Yeah, we're just doing this little warm up. We're already about 10 minutes in. Let me just go ahead and get her face in here just so this feels like a little bit more of a complete drawing. How many days left in this month? You get till Saturday, so today marks 7 days left until the end of the month, I guess. So 7 more drawings for folks that are doing Inktober. Akira, you're a newbie at the Instant Pot. Ugh, Instant Pot's the best thing ever. Everyone's been talking a lot about air fryers lately. I don't know if I'm gonna get on the air fryer bandwagon, but I love my Instant Pot. I really do. It's like the best thing in the world. You can cook everything with very little fuss, all in a single pot, which is just very cool. But the biggest thing for me is just the easiness of cooking large batches of stuff for meal prep. What's going on here? 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 fingers, 4 fingers, and a thumb. So yeah, this is just my little warm up. Not a really interesting. Oh, let's get her face in here too. There we go. Just something like that. So this is my warm-up. Like we said before, I'm just trying to fill some pages here, but my hand needed to kind of get some action going in it. So we're going to switch over to air fryers next. We're going to switch over to markers. So, oh, I should probably just show you a little bit about how, let me show you how markers work. All right, so I did a little bit of like messing around here. I've got a little board here that will hopefully, just want to show you what this marker stuff looks like on decent paper. So let's see if we can actually see the lighter. So this is 10%. Very difficult to see. It's going on a little wet right now, and then it'll kind of come up. This is 30%. These are all cool grays, by the way. This one looks a little warm, but it's not. 30%, 50%, and 70%. So you can actually blend these together to get more subtle gradations between them. I don't know how much I'm going to do that. Probably a little bit. Usually what you end up wanting to do with markers is kind of layer them on top of each other. The other thing that we're going to be using is a brush pen. So the interesting thing about this marker paper, let's see, it's as close as I can get, but I don't know if you can see this, but the texture of it, because it's a rag paper, actually makes the brushiness of the brush kind of emphasized, because you actually get some texture in there. So we're going to try to play with that a little bit, I think. The other thing that the brush pen can do, and we might do, is you can actually kind of smear it around a little bit. So if you wanted to get a slightly different texture, a different value somewhere, you can kind of shade, if you will. So we're going to be doing a little bit of this. I am going to put that onto the ground where it belongs, which is where I put all my trash. I just throw it onto the ground, and I'm going to take out a nice, crisp, clean sheet of marker paper. And we'll zoom out a little bit. Okay, let's hope this stays in focus for us. So what I'm actually going to do first, so I want to kind of talk about this image a little bit. I think there's some really interesting stuff happening in this image. We've got this, I don't know how you want to describe it. It's like a circular, let's actually get that piece of paper back. When I look at this image, you have to forgive all of the marks here. When I look at this image, I see a couple of different things. I see a shape. It's kind of like this, which is a head, and then a head. So it's like this, like almost like a heart kind of shape. And then I see, this like really black kind of silhouette, which is enveloping all of this stuff and resulting in kind of a diamond shape down here. And so as I kind of go through this, I'm going to kind of try to keep my eyes on these like larger kind of composition as something I want to push. Also, there's something really interesting happening with the different sort of like forms. So we've got an S that's kind of happening with this figure. We've got kind of an S happening with this figure. And then, yeah, we could probably push like some sort of an S with this figure. So these are just some like rhythms that I'm thinking about when I'm looking at this photograph, and we might try to push some of this a little bit. So now that we're back to this, I'm actually going to use a pencil just to give myself a little bit of a guide. So forgive me if you can't quite see this super well. So I really want to kind of mass in some of those bigger shapes that I was just describing. And we're not going to go for accuracy with this. What we're going to do is go for design, go for interesting, like visual interest. So I'm just giving myself some landmarks here. And then I think we might do a little test. I wanted to lay down some, what do you call it? Some ink from my brush pen, and then see how it looks when we layer marker over it. So we're doing a little bit of experimentation today. There's no doubt about that. I do not pretend to know everything, and the way that I learn is by having an idea and then trying to make that idea into a thing. So you are coming along on that ride with me today. Again, we're just, sorry if you can't see this very well, but I'm just giving myself some landmarks here to be able to kind of construct this image. Okay, that's it. If you can see this, it looks like a Ninja Turtle. You see the Ninja Turtle? Yeah, that's what we're working with. So I just wanted to give myself some really, really basic lines, and then we'll try to do some stuff. But like I said, right before we do that, I want to see what happens when I lay down some ink. Let it dry for just a minute or a second, and then let's see what happens when we put some 30% over it. Okay, so it's going to smear, which is good to know. So I'm actually going to go the inverse of what I thought I was going to do, which means that I'm going to do marker first, and then I'm going to do ink. So I don't want this to smear too much, so I'm just going to pat it down with a kneaded eraser. And what this does is it takes off some of the excess graphite from the page. And this is really good for making sure that you don't have too much medium from graphite on your paper. And then you can kind of go over with marker or like watercolor or whatever, and it just won't be very visible. So we're going to go ahead and start doing some marker rendering now. I'm just going to try to get this into view. Again, very difficult to see, I realized. So the best way to use markers is really just start from the lightest and then move up to the darkest. And we're just going to lay in some basic tone. And technically I could go over this entire image with this tone. Because the whole thing is going to be at least I'm just going to say a 20% gray or darker. And so I could go over the entire thing, but what I really want to do is not waste the ink, because we can just go over with brush pen, or we can do a few layers of the 70% for some of the darker areas. So I'm just kind of going over now and just getting that initial value of my gray in here. I would recommend using these markers in a ventilated area. My area right now is not ventilated, so I'm going to get a little lightheaded. So use caution at home, I will say that. Okay, so as you can see, I just went over kind of one pass, and then I'll do another pass. Krishna, are you going to draw realistic with markers? Not necessarily realistic. I mean, it'll be stylistically real. I definitely kind of always lean toward realism when I'm doing stuff, but I think that we're gonna kind of push and pull some things throughout this drawing, and really try to let the brush pen do a lot of work as well. But the markers are really just there for me to lay in some tone, so that I can get some level of gradation. And not have to just rely on the ultra black and white of the markers. I don't know how many of you have ever used like drafting markers like these before, but they're a lot of fun. So I'm just kind of placing some of these sort of shadows that I know I'm gonna see, and just kind of roughing them in right now. My drawing is not going to be very accurate. I think I've been saying that a lot lately, but I didn't measure any of this, so I just know that it's not going to be very accurate. Okay, so starting to see a little bit of these forms. Let's get some of this in the hands too. Markers are a really interesting medium because you gotta be really, I think, patient with them and just let things build up slowly. Oh, you use markers in your subway sketches a lot. That's cool. Yeah, I feel like I go through phases where I use markers a lot and then I just don't. But it's funny. It's like the first time I ever used markers was in school, in college, and it was like in a kind of traditional sort of graphic design class for like packaging and advertising and things like that. It was the kind of class that was very much not it's kind of not relevant anymore when you really think about it. And but one of the classes, or one of the assignments, was to render a poster using markers like these, full color, and it was one of the most fun things I'd ever done. It was just like such a great medium, because I was just very surprised at how you could blend them, and how you could how great the colors were, but then how you could make new colors, etc. So yeah, that was, how old was I? I was like 17, 18 maybe. I think it was probably my sophomore year at school. Anyway, it was a really fun medium to discover, and then didn't really use them for a long time, and then sort of would pick it. You know what, to be honest, like I think I picked them up again because of Sktchy, because I was like, oh, I want to start trying to use ink, and I was like, what if I combine them with pens, like normal pens? What would that look like? And I just found them to work together so well. Watch for owl. What kind of drafting markers? These are just Prismacolor cool gray. It's like a cool gray set of markers. Yeah, they come in like crazy amounts of colors. Again, not inexpensive markers though. Very, very not inexpensive. Lots of good marker set brands out there, but this is one of my favorite for sure. Okay, starting to get in here with some a little bit darker value. I'm just trying to really find the placement of some of these features right now because I didn't measure so well. Some of this stuff is definitely going to look off. Like that line just right there that I just made, it's going to look off. All right, so we're just going to have to say that's okay. Trying to squint my eyes here so that I can kind of see the shadows a little bit easier. Again, though, if you've never used these kind of markers before and you end up getting a set or getting a couple, I mean, I'm only using 4 here, so you can get by with a lot, or very little, I should say. But if you end up using them, I definitely recommend getting this kind of like rag marker paper because it can be really frustrating when it bleeds in something like a sketchbook. So just be aware of that as like one of the traits of the markers themselves. So as I'm kind of going through and finding shadows and stuff, to be frank, I would have wished that this image had a little bit more like light contrast. Right now I'm just kind of getting like a really bright all over face. But what I would sort of be doing is like hopefully just like doing a little bit more buildup of these values. So now I'm going to go back through and do like another pass of these just to get more value in some of these areas that really need it. But I'm not ready to go to like a full, just do a whole pass on like with a 30%. So this is going back to that 10% right now. Really trying to look at this photograph and squint my eyes and see where these different values are hitting. Now again, I'm not trying to do like a full rendering here. What I'm trying to do is just do what my ink pen cannot do, which is just get some of these lighter values laid in. I've never heard of Ecoline, Nikira. I'm gonna have to look at those. Krishna, no, this is not commission work. This is just me sketching on a Sunday and y'all watching for fun. What are we at with time? 9:30. Okay, we're doing good. We're doing good. So using that 10% right now, I'm going to go over to the 30% again, since we've actually got more of the kinds of shapes that I'm interested in over here. So I'm going to start to find some of these shadow shapes. Carve them out. And then we'll go in and fill in some of this with value. Now I'm definitely exaggerating some of these curves and forms I'm gonna go back to the, what was that? What was that version? What was I using just then? 50%. Oh no. Well, that's fine. It went a little too dark too quickly. That's fine. This area was dark, so it's all good. So I'm coming back up to 30% here. I'm just going to start getting in some of these other areas of the face. It's 10:30 p.m. in India. Wow, it's only 9:30 a.m. over here. I hope the future is very nice. Got some clients at work who live in Qatar, and they are 10 hours ahead of me. So it's like 7 o'clock p.m. their time right now. We have some, it's kind of why I'm feeling a little tired all the time. It's early mornings happening. Let's see, what do we want to do here? I think we'll just kind of get some of that cheekbone in here. I'm gonna kind of come back down here again and just do another quick pass on her eyes, some of these shadow areas. Just try to get some more value in here. Again, it's really just about build up, build up, build up, build up. It's kind of a slow, it can be kind of a slow process, but it's worth it. It really forces you to kind of study the values that you're looking at. And there's also something called like a colorless blender, which is basically just alcohol. You can also use just alcohol if you want to, but what that'll do is it'll kind of like just kind of spread out some of that medium, some of the ink, so that you can get a little bit more of a seamless gradation of value. Okay, let's go back down to the hands now. Oh, by the way, the weather in Portland just turned over to be like, now it's chilly. Last night it was 35 degrees Fahrenheit, coming off of like 60 degrees during the day and stuff. So that was a nice little surprise. All right, so I'm kind of squinting again, trying to look for where the shadow kind of turns in these big forms, thinking about these forms as like a box almost, like the hand almost as like a box where I've got a side plane here and I've got a top plane and things like that. Hey Polly, welcome back. It's good to see you. Krishna, am I going to draw the whole photo? I'm going to try to do a lot of it, I would say. I don't know how far exactly I'll get, but I'll probably get pretty far. It's not going to be like, I'm not trying to go for a like a super rendering or anything. Just going for kind of a quick ink sketch. again, this is actually exactly the opposite of the way that I wanted to do this. I wanted to do, what do you call it? I wanted to do the brush pen first, and then I wanted to go in and do marker. But since the brush pen is being a jerk and is smearing, we are in a situation where we're doing the opposite. So we'll see how this goes. For some reason, I've got some like warm gray on this particular marker, which is making me unhappy, but it's okay. That's another thing about markers that I always forget is like you get the value down. It's very similar to gouache in a sense because it's like you get the value down on the page and then you kind of let it sit and then you have to come back to it and kind of reevaluate it. Because it's going to lighten up after it dries out. Hey, Porcupine Pancake. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go to brush pen here in just a minute. What I do want to do though, before I do that, is I want to kind of at least see where in some of these areas, like the hair and such, I can kind of identify some of these cloth folds and things like that. So I'm gonna kind of find the dark corners, or sorry, edges where light meets dark, and just do a little bit of almost what I did with the with that initial warm-up sketch, where I kind of was just using really loose, scribbly kind of gesture. Because what I need to do is give myself a little bit of something to hang on to when I get in with the brush pen and make some more intentional marks. And what I'm trying to do here is actually color in the lighter areas, which is going to look a little bit weird, but it's because I'm going to be going in with the brush pen to color in the darker areas. So, because I want there to be some darker value on the like the highlighted areas in these like very dark sort of shirts and hair. I don't want them to be devoid of value. So I'm going through with my 30%. I'm finding all those areas where that dark hits the light from a highlight, and I'm coloring in the highlight with the marker. Again, which seems very unintuitive, but that's how we're doing it right now. So I'm also just going to make up some of these folds just to do what I feel like works. And then we've got some shadows here. We've got this. Yeah, this photo reference is crazy good. Polly, it's snowing. Polly, where do you, I mean, you don't have to like say exactly where you live, but what part of the world are you in right now that it's snowing? Again, just coloring in everything that's going to be the highlight or the light part of these areas. Now, normally what you actually want to do with markers is kind of go in very parallel, even strokes so that you don't get any, what's the word I'm looking for? Any, just like, you're really not looking for banding. You want to be really precise with your stroke making. I'm just kind of coloring stuff in haphazardly, like they're Crayola markers or something. But yeah, I should be doing something like this. So you can get very even tone. Not this garbage over here. Oh, Upper Michigan. Yeah. Seems about right. I used to live in Ohio. Thankfully, I don't anymore, but I forgot about how it can get cold early. I mean, I guess it's almost November, isn't it? Right? Like, we're just about there. Well, we're getting something here, right? Like, this is starting to look like an image of some sort, which is kind of neat. So we're going to go ahead and keep moving around the image here. Just thinking this is probably all just going to be black. Okay, so I'm going to make some calls here. I've actually got a couple of other pens just in case I wanted to do something else with them. Krishna, do I like pencils more than markers? I mean, I think that I've traditionally used pencils as like my primary medium, but now I can't say that I generally like one of those things over the other. I think they're both great for so many different things. So I'm more familiar with pencils. So now we're going in with our brush pen and really looking at how and what is dark and what is light. So I think you can see now that like all the areas that I kind of left white, I'm going in and I'm not just trying to fill in, I'm actually still trying to like think about how the hair is moving, etc. But I also want to get some movement in there as well, just like take advantage of the pen for what it is. We might go in with another, yeah, like I said, one of the other pens that I do have over here, just to get some other line quality and detail happening, which I think could really add to this. I should have started over here, so I'm going to come back over here a little bit. I'm actually going to try my best to be very good with this pen. This person's face is a little, I kind of messed it up pretty early on, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time trying to make it look right. So it's just going to look weird. which is fine. It's all fine. Okay, let's get back into here. We're just gonna kind of lay in a bunch of strokes. I've had this pen for a while and I've done a number of drawings with it, so I have no idea how or when it's going to run out of ink, and I worry that it's going to run out right in the middle of this drawing. So I don't have any refills for it. So I don't even see sleeve texture over here, but I do know that it's rounded. So I'm trying to evoke a little bit of that, like turning over of the form by making these kinds of strokes. Okay. So let's go ahead and get in here a little bit more. Interlocking fingers, not easy. Just like really hard to kind of wrap your head around, I think. It's hard for me to wrap my head around, I should say. And I don't know how many people have actually used a brush pen like this one, but they're so fun. They're super duper fun. Highly recommend it. I need to practice drawing more often because this is not kind of what I expected or wanted this to come out looking like. Which isn't bad, it's just I wish I was more practiced right now, but I'm not. Look at this mess. It's hilarious. So what we will not be able to do now that we're doing this step, is we will not be able to go in with marker again, because all it's going to do is mess up these lines that we've created with this pen. So if I can get to it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and add some additional kind of like lines to give us a little bit more I would say like even another level of kind of value and line interest in general. So we'll see how it goes though. We're already at 9:52. For anybody that's been doing Inktober, what approach to ink have you been using? Like, have you been doing like ink washes? Have you been using technical pens? Have you been doing the sort of like Bic ballpoint pen approach like I did at the beginning of the stream? Just sort of curious or like, are you trying different stuff, I guess, is like another question that I have. Or are you just kind of sticking with what you're used to? Hey, Dean. Your clocks went back last night? That's right. I feel like, what was it? Europe went back. Was it Europe? I don't remember. I was just reading about this. Ours don't go back until next weekend on Sunday, the 1st. But yeah. It's causing a mess. But then I wonder if the states are gonna just stay in standard time once 2021 comes, because this is the moment when we all need to start deciding if we're going to stay in daylight time or if we're going to stay in standard time. Where are we at? 9:55. Okay, I'm just going to try to fill this stuff in now. I might, after the stream, just kind of wrap it up by going in and doing some of that line work that I was talking about. I need to practice more with this pen. There was a time when I was okay with it, but I think I just need to practice more everything in general. Oh yeah, there is an offer. A lot of natural inks happening up in there. Different inking stuff. Yeah, dip pens are really fun. Those are good. Nikira, you can't keep up with the class. Yeah, there's a lot of really great classes. The thing is, you keep them forever, right? Like you'll have access to them for a very long time. So they're gonna be there. They're gonna be there with you always. But yeah, that's actually one of the great things. So take advantage of those kinds of offers. The BOGO promo code, BOGO80, for that 80% off your second class. It's a pretty good deal. Hey Dylan, thank you. I think whoever the featured artist is, right, today picked it. Should have checked to see who it was. Anyway, so I'm gonna wrap this up. I'll probably, like I said, I'll go in and and likely do a little pass of some detail just to get even more kind of value separation. But this is ultimately pretty much what I was kind of trying to do. You can kind of, well, you can't see it, but there was an intent at the beginning to try to create these sort of masses of stuff. So we might try to push on that a little bit more. But anywho, I think Dylan's got a stream coming up next. I don't recommend a starter dip pen. I just get one of those plastic handles and like get a nib. I think that's the best thing to do. But yeah, so many good classes, so much time. It's going to get colder if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. So this is a great time to buy some of those extra classes just so you have something to keep working on. I've got a couple of classes if you want to learn how to draw the human head, or if you're interested in my mark making technique. Dylan, who's up next here, he's got some amazing natural ink courses. I highly recommend those as well. So anywho, thanks for joining this morning. I am going to continue this, and I'll post on Instagram, as well as if you're part of the Sktchy Art School, I'll drop my picture in there as well after this shortly. So hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you next week on November 1st. All right, is that right? November 1st? Ooh, November 1st. Yeah, that's when I'll see you next. So